Okay. First question. How has your race and ethnicity benefited you?
How has my race and ethnicity benefited me? It probably hasn't. What's probably helped me more than anything, and it's a related subject, is my knowledge of culture and also my language background. At one time, I could speak 5 languages: French, English, Spanish, Malaysian, Indonesian, and Chinese.
Okay.
And my knowledge of culture, I lived until I was 15, so I was an American, but I was virtually like an immigrant coming to the United States in the middle of ninth grade, and my adult life was all in Asia. I lived in Asia from the late 70s all the way until the early 90s.
Okay. What do you think people are thinking about your race and ethnicity?
When they see me a little differently, and the reason is it's, again, linked to language. There are a lot of people from French Africa, there's a lot of people from Vietnam, and anyway, people from Franco culture, French culture, and so immediately they see me differently than other Americans, not because of my race or skin color, but because I understand French culture.
How has your gender benefited you?
How has my gender benefited me? That probably has been an advantage. I lived in Asia for most of my life as an adult, running pharmaceutical and consumer product companies. And there's really a discrimination against women in business in Asia. And I even took actions to stop that in India. When I was in India, there was a woman named Miss Sule, and I just so happened to have a picture of her. That's Miss Sule there. And she was a very smart woman and very educated. She had 2 master's degrees, which is unusual in India. And when the marketing position, I was the president of the 3rd largest drug company in India, very big company. And when the marketing position came up, I suggested to the owner, "Why don't we pick Miss Sule?" And he stuttered and he said, "But she's a woman." I said, "But all the men go to her first, and then they come back to me and tell me the same thing that Miss Sule is going to say." So I finally convinced him, and it was really a breakthrough, what they call the glass ceiling, and you probably studied that in sociology. And she did very well.
Okay.
Okay?
Does your gender or sex make you unique?
Does my gender
or sex make you unique?
or sex make me unique? I'm not. I'm probably the exception on that, and I'll tell you why. Again, it's because I grew up with my mother. My father was a nuclear engineer and was away a lot of the time, and I have interests that are usually embraced by women more than men. For example, I like the art, I like music, and they're enjoyed by both people. But usually things I like and culture, and I majored in international studies. They're usually things that women gravitate towards rather than men. So, and I'm in a profession in education that's dominated by women. So this is the best way to put it. I've been told by other women students, she said, "I understand about 25% of women." And I said, "Oh, that's pretty low." And they say, "Actually, that's high. If a man understands 25% of a woman, that's pretty high." And I'd like to elaborate on that if you don't mind. I've asked this question to a number of, like you're asking me a question, I've asked a lot of students that I'm close to. I said, is the difference between a man and a woman and people from different cultures, I said, which is much more different? And I'll ask you the same question. Which is more different? The fact that you're from another culture in Morocco and I'm an American, or the fact that you're a woman and I'm a man? What's a bigger difference in the way we relate to each other? What do you think?
The gender, man and woman.
What do you think? Yeah, and clearly it's almost 100% that way. And I think it's more women, I think, have generally a better understanding of men than men do of women. And I think that's why I get along with women, because I try to make that bridge.
What do you think about your age?
My age, that's a big difference. Actually, of all the gender discrimination and the gender questions you're talking about, really age is really the ones that I encounter most of my life. Now, so what's the key to that? Well, usually some girl in my class raised my hand. I teach world history, and some girl raised her hand and she said, "Mr. Holcomb, who was the first president you saw give a speech?" And then, I kind of paused because I know this is going to be kind of startling. And then they, what we call in education, aided response. They say, "Clinton? No, before Clinton." And then they start doing a couple other tries, and they realize that I say, "Well, do you remember we studied D-Day and the Normandy invasion, June 6, 1944? And then there's kind of a scared look on it's not startled, it's kind of a frightened look on their face, and the girl goes, D-Day? Middle of the last century? I don't know how to answer at that point, because the answer is yes. So I said, who do you think was the president when I was born? And then they're almost afraid to ask. Who was it?
I don't know.
The guy who dropped the atomic bombs, Truman.
Truman?
You're old.
Truman? Truman. So the age thing, kids relate to me. Kids like me. You've got hundreds and hundreds of people every year, and you just saw two girls came back from college to say hello. But it kind of scares them when they find out how old I really am. And that's just the cultural shock. The real shock is technology. The people who we call the millenniums, they think you guys are old.
We're not old.
They think you are. They're completely different than any other generation I've ever seen. They see the world differently. It's really what we call in sociology a paradigm shift. These people are not like any generation ever. Yes.